Well, hello and welcome to the Wednesday Word. This is the Desert Spring Church podcast coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Julie Hart, the Director of Connectional Ministries here, and I have two fine and fabulous guests in the podcast studio today. And I'm excited because even though this is dropping the last day of January, we are celebrating love for the month of February. And so we have the Scobies here to kick us off with that. And we'll be talking to some married couples who have been married for more than a minute to kind of share some of their stories and some of their wisdom and advice with us. So without further ado, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves to us. And if y'all just say your name and kind of how long you've been here at Desert Spring and a little bit of your involvement through the years.
I'm Sharon Scobie, and we've been to Desert Spring, I believe it's about 20 years. I'm very involved with United Women in Faith, and I sing in the choir. I serve on other committees at various times and have done so for a long time.
For all 20 years, I'm betting.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. What are some of the committees you've served on?
Right now, I'm serving on SPRC. I've served on the Committee on Nominations. I've served on council. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, thank you for your service. All right, Bill.
Yeah, I'm Bill Scobie, and we've been actually going to this church since 2000, so it's a little more than 20 years, and we've been active as we have with all churches that we've been associated with. I've been on the trustees and the finance committees, and we've taken part in also conference committee. I was on the Board of Ordained Ministry for 12 years. You can only be on there. That's as long as you can be on there, so they kicked me off.
Full term.
Full term. So, that's probably the best job that I've had in the church. I enjoyed that so much.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah. That's great to hear. And I believe right now with the men's group, are you a part of helping getting speakers in for your monthly breakfast?
Yes, that's what
I love that so much.
I'm doing that. Started in December, and then we'll do that. I'm not in charge. Bill Kazimoff still is in charge, but I've said that I would get the speakers.
I think that's awesome. I love that so much.
And we've got them up about 6 months in advance. Last one that we had was Bill Roart, who used to be a member here.
Yeah.
And he spoke about Special Olympics, and
cool.
It was really neat because when he went here, another member, Carl Rogers, was in charge of the men's group, and Carl got Bill to come one day when another person was talking about Special Olympics.
Oh, no.
And he said that changed his whole world. I mean, he had not been involved in stuff like that. And as a matter of fact, his wife said she was surprised that he got involved with the Special Olympics because he would avoid people with disabilities whenever he could. Mm-hmm. And then he got involved, and he's been involved on the local level, but also taking part in national events. So
that's so great.
So that's how that happened.
I love that. And, I'm a strong believer in sharing our stories, which is why when I heard you were taking this on, I'm like, oh, that's so great because we need to share our stories and what we're doing and inspire each other. So good on you for that. I'm going to start just crashing the parties and sitting in, just so you know.
That would be fine.
Okay.
Be fine. We've had excellent speakers so far.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Our next one is Tom Washington.
I know he's on my calendar to crash the party.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, that's great. I know you all do great work, and I know you have been a part of shepherding people along, and people really look up to you. You're a couple that sets a great example. And so we're what you are what we call, I come from the county, so you're the SMEs, right? The subject matter experts here on marriage. So first of all, how long have you all been married?
We've been married 58 years.
58 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to let that soak in because that's a little bit longer than I've been alive. A few years. 58 years. And so let's go back 58 years or however long ago to when you first met.
We first met at college. We at that time, you went to a freshman week, and so we both went the same year, went to freshman week, and then we went to a dance that ended the freshman week, and that's where we met.
The reason how we did it actually was we had in our during our week of freshman orientation, we had small groups that we were with, and I ended up with a fella who I had gone to school with in Janesville, Wisconsin, for a half a year, and we started, talking back and forth and kind of reminiscing. I didn't remember him actually. I found out that he went to the same school that I did, and was in that classroom that I was in for a half a year. But he started talking about his girlfriend, and he mentioned her name, and I remembered her name, and I even remembered where she sat in the classroom. Mm-hmm. And so when we came to the dance, he says, "Well, I'll get you together with my girlfriend when you come, and you can talk about old times, right?" So we did, and as we were talking there, she was with a group of girls, including Sharon.
Okay, for a minute there, I was thinking you were going to say that was the girlfriend, but no, okay.
No. And so after we were talking for a little bit, she said, "Are you with somebody?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, I got the perfect girl for you," and she introduces me to Sharon.
You got to be kidding me!
I'm not
really
kidding you.
Seriously, come on, just like that.
Just like that.
Your first week of college.
First week of college.
Come on.
She says, "This is the perfect girl for
you." I can't.
And I guess it turned out to be that way.
Wow, that's really remarkable. Now, why would you say, Sharon, that he thought you were the perfect girl? Why do you think that they said, "Oh, this is the girl for you"? What do you think about you?
Well, he didn't tell me that at first, but we just she happened to live across from me in the dorm, and so you go to some place like this, you don't know anybody when you first go, and so we just got to know each other. So I guess she got to know me, and maybe she remembered a little bit about Bill. I don't know.
That's beautiful. But, I can't believe it. That's like right out of the chute. And which college?
We both went to Wisconsin. Well, it's now called Wisconsin State University at Whitewater. At the time we went, it was basically a teacher's college. What did they call it? A normal school?
No, normal school. It started out as a normal school,
mainly for teachers.
It was Wisconsin State College at the time that we went.
Okay.
And in that time, there was a separate system for the state colleges. There were like about 9 or so state colleges, and they had a separate board and so forth. And then later on, after we left, that board and the board of the University of Wisconsin combined, and they made all those individual colleges University of Wisconsin at whatever city that they were in.
Okay, so you were there in the beginning. So you meet your first week of your freshman year, and you start to date.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and tell me about your dating life.
Well, it lasted through college.
Okay.
And I don't know.
Well, we had some rough spots.
Well, there was.
Okay, I'm going to shift my focus over here. And now for the rest of the story.
The rest of the story, he had a girlfriend back in the town that he lived in. Okay. I had a boyfriend back in the town I lived in. So that first year it was
part we were waiting for.
That first year we were kind of back and forth. When we went home, we'd go see the person that was waiting for us back there. But then after that first year, it just kind of tapered off.
Well, not exactly. You tried to dump me after the first year.
To dump you once, didn't I?
This is great.
It didn't work.
It's just an attempted dumping, but
Attempted,
you weren't having that.
I wasn't having that. No.
No. Okay, how'd you talk her out of that? Because she seems like
I don't remember exactly how I did that, but I just was persistent.
there you go. Because you knew by this time you're like, nope, this is the one for me.
Right.
Okay. So at what point did you introduce each other to the family? Because that's where it gets real.
I think it was in our sophomore year.
I think so. You're right.
And it was, no, it had to be in the freshman year because when I took her to my home, my oldest sister was the one that raised me, and she had 2 children.
Okay.
When I took her home that one weekend, they whispered to her that she didn't have a chance because I had that other girlfriend at home.
Sisters are the worst, man. That's too much. Oh, okay, so they liked your first girlfriend, or they just figured that was.
Well, I don't think they even met that other girl.
Oh, they just
because
knew
she didn't
that
live in the town that we lived in. She
Okay.
lived in the next town over.
Okay.
And so
But she came to college next year.
No, that's right.
2 years later?
She did.
Yeah,
Oh,
The-
the
the
plot
next year,
thickens. So
yeah.
next year she's coming. Okay.
Right.
Okay. It's a small
So-
college, kind of. Yeah.
So at that point, had to break off of one.
Yeah, it's hard to keep that going for too much
Yeah.
longer.
yeah, seeing that we actually were in some classes together.
Oh, wow.
Because both of us sang in the choirs at school, and his ex-girlfriend joined the choir too. So I was in the women's choir, and she was in the women's choir too. So we met.
Okay, how did that go?
It went okay.
You know.
Yeah, I think by that time it was pretty much over. So.
It was a done deal.
Yeah.
Still deal. Okay. As the kids say now, you had been shipped, right? Okay. So you went through college before proposing? You went all the way through college?
Well, in our senior year, first of all, during college, we did a lot of things together through Wesley Foundation, if you know what that is. So
I do.
So we that was a big part of our life too, and then in the senior year, I knew I was going to be going into the US2 program, and when I signed up for that, they said I couldn't be married for the 2 years that I was in there. You had to be single.
Oh.
And so I didn't want her to be wandering off. So that's
To be wandering off.
that's when I proposed in that.
You had to secure this
Yes.
deal before leaving.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Got you. Okay. So this is your senior year.
Senior year in college.
Okay, senior
Right.
year. So it's pretty long courtship, especially for
Right.
the time, right? Pretty long courtship. So it was the 4 years of college and then 2 years after before you were married.
No, that's not right.
Oh. I'm bad at math. Okay.
Well, your math is fine,
Oh,
but
no one ever said that. Thank you.
after a year in the US2 program,
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I told him that I was going to quit because I wanted to get married. I couldn't.
That's right.
Didn't want to wait any longer because I was in Nebraska and she's in Wisconsin, and a long distance relationship sometimes doesn't work. So I
You had-
petitioned them to get married, and they came out, interviewed me, and the gal at the time US2 program was under the women's division of the Board of Missions,
Okay.
and so one of the board members came out, interviewed me, and then she went back, and I guess they deliberated, and then they said, okay, you can get married, but she has to have her own source of income because, and then we had to find a place to stay there. I had one room at this children's home where I was working, but there wasn't room for the 2 of us.
Right.
And so she had to have a source of income because my pay was $125 a month. And so we wouldn't be
Wow.
able to live on that. So she did. She applied at a few high schools
Right. I applied at some high schools, and actually, Bill interviewed for me because I wasn't there. So he interviewed for me. And then the school that I did end up going to, I did finally come and do an interview with them. But I was teaching in a really small town, Bradshaw, Nebraska, which was, about 10 miles from York. And that school was kindergarten through high school.
Oh my word.
So it was a small,
That's a small school.
small town.
Wow. So you went there, and now you have a teaching job, and you're still staying with the program.
Yes,
and
I'm a relief house parent and tutor.
Yeah.
At the
Yeah, and I know you have
children's
some great stories from that experience, because I've heard some of those.
Right.
So you get married. Tell me, well, first of all, I don't think we heard about the proposal, how you proposed. I knew you were.
Well, it wasn't a big affair, I guess. I took her out to dinner at a nice restaurant, and on the way back to the dorm, I just pulled into a park and proposed there in the car.
Did she think about it for a minute, or did she just go, Sharon?
No, I just said yes.
Were
I
you
said yes.
surprised?
Yes and no. I mean, I knew he was going to be gone for 2 years, so I didn't know for sure. But, I mean, after you've gone together for 4 years.
I know. Yeah, I know. And so where were you married? Tell us about your wedding, your actual wedding.
Okay, we were, I grew up in Ripon, Wisconsin, and that's where we were married, in the Methodist church. Both of us had been Methodists all our lives.
Right.
And so that's where we got married on June 26, 1965.
I love that. I love that.
Our reception was at the church. And
At
then,
the church?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
The women's group put it together.
Of course they did. I'm going to need, I'm just now thinking I'm going to need a wedding picture. I'm sure you have one. I'd love to see a picture
Sure.
of maybe we can post that with your picture from today, your wedding picture. That would be really cool. So that's wonderful. So you get married and you go off right away, and you had to find a place to live together then, or you?
Yes, we found a basement apartment.
Okay.
Not the best situation at all, but it was a place to stay.
And you were young and in love,
right.
so
And
who cared?
some of the rooms were just cordoned off by like curtains.
Like the restroom.
Yeah, right.
Excellent. Very nice. And so tell me about those first years. You're kind of struggling, you're kind of getting you've got your job, but you're still starting out, right?
Right. I have my job. He's still working at the children's home. So
And I was gone. I worked 6 days on and 2 days off. And so when you're a house parent, you have to stay at the place. So you're there 24 hours. So we, a little bit of, being apart during our first year.
Yeah. What was that like? Because you also had to move. So now you're in a new town, new job.
Right. But I would sometimes come and have dinner with them, at least at the facility. And, made friends with everybody there that they worked with. Actually, one couple could have been our parents, but we did more with them than anybody else.
They were just super.
But they were just super people.
They were like 30 years older than we were, but loved to play games. And we were over at their house a lot of times.
Like mentor kind of mentors, friends
Right.
I love that. I love that. And so clearly one of my questions was how you kept God at the center of your marriage, but God has always been the center of your lives, it sounds like.
It has. I grew up in the Methodist church. I participated in Sunday school. I did. I served in the MYF. I served as officers in MYF, and then when we went to college, it was Wesley Foundation. I mean, I don't think either one of us ever thought twice of not going to church or not being part of those groups. And
for those listening at home, MYF is a Methodist Youth Fellowship, which known as youth group now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then the Wesley Foundation was at college.
Yeah.
And we both participated in that. We both had sung in choir at church when we were growing up.
Oh, my
And,
word.
it was just really a major part of my life. My parents, they made sure we went.
You're like
but
the
I loved
poster
it.
couple for go to church.
Yeah, same here. I took part in MYF and again was an officer like her a lot of times, and then not only at the local level but at the district level, and we would go to meetings around in that area of Wisconsin where they had other groups.
And we both went to camp. You went to camp too, right?
Oh, yay.
Yeah, I went
Yep.
to camp, and
Good things happen at camp.
fun things.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, how many years were you married before you started a family?
Well, our first son was born the end of 70, so 5 years.
Okay. So that's kind of a minute too, right? Because that you didn't rush into any of it so much. Okay.
Well, after I got out of the US2 program, we moved to San Diego because I wanted to go to law school, and I don't know where she found this information, but she found a brochure, I guess, on a law school that was just getting started in San Diego, California. I had a sister that lived in San Diego, so I thought, well, maybe I'll go out there. And
Much better weather.
Yes, and that's what I did. And I should have researched the school a little bit better because I didn't realize they were not accredited. And so I went there for a year, and at the end of the first year, they cut half of the first year class, and I was on the wrong side. I was 0.08 of a point below what the cutoff was, and so they I never finished. But
Wow.
that's but we stayed in San Diego for 2 years. Got active in the church there at Point Loma United Methodist Church, and sang in the choir, and we're active. They had us take charge of the youth group there.
I bet they did.
That was not our thing.
Oh,
No, we were not good at that.
how long did you give it a shot, though?
A year.
Okay, you gave it a good fair try.
It just wasn't something we felt comfortable doing,
No.
I guess.
Yeah.
But we had a great young couples group there, and for at least the first year, none of those couples had any kids, and so we would get together a lot. There were like at least 20, 30 couples
Wow.
that were in this group, and
Awesome.
somebody would call on a Friday night and say, let's do this, and then there would be 20, 30 people there.
Oh, that's cool.
That was a great group to be with. We're still in touch with some of those people.
Oh, I love that. That's wonderful. That's great. So you stayed, you left San Diego then after that, you're saying?
Well, then again, she's teaching at the time in Chula Vista,
Okay.
Wisconsin, California, and she was teaching typing and shorthand, and so
Shorthand. Some of you are going to have to look that one up. Google that.
Probably not used too much anymore.
anyway, I had always been interested in getting into the FBI.
Yeah.
But I thought that you had to either be a lawyer or an accountant to get in, which wasn't true. So she started talking. An agent came down to test some of her kids for stenos at the local FBI office. Right? So she started talking to this guy and told him I was interested. He sent me an application, and I filled it out. And
Good for you. She's looking out for you all along the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a few months later, I was hired, and that's when we left San Diego.
And where did you go from there?
Well, he went to training at the time. We lived in Oxon Hill, Maryland,
Okay.
but he had training in, what building was that in
It's
Washington?
the old post office building.
Okay.
And then they would have, when they were doing their sharpshooter or whatever you call it. Their firearms training. They went down to Quantico.
Oh, okay. And you just keep packing up and just going.
Yeah, we did.
And then three months later, then we were sent to Portland, Oregon.
Okay. And so it's a lot to pack up your life and move and start over and make friends. So can you speak to that a little bit, Sharon?
Well, it was something different for me because I grew up in Wisconsin. I did travel with my parents a couple times, like going to Niagara Falls or going to see family in Ohio.
Yeah.
But I knew when we got married, I knew I was going to go to Nebraska because that's where he was working.
Yeah.
But I also knew that he didn't want to go back to Wisconsin because of the cold weather and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a sister in Long Beach and a sister in San Diego. And so we ended up choosing San Diego. The first moves weren't bad because it was just the two of us.
Yeah.
After the kids came, those were a little harder.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We lived here once and had 3 kids and moved to Maryland again and then back. But we left all our kids in Maryland at that time.
Yeah.
No.
Bill,
3.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The oldest one
was here.
When we left here, our oldest one was going into 6th grade. And I don't know, that was the time when Las Vegas decided to have 6th grade centers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Bill would have gone into 6th grade at that time. Well, that's when we left. And then, but he remembered a lot about Las Vegas. So when he graduated from high school, I was teaching at a community college, so my boys all went to the community college because it was free.
Right. Good
and
job.
Then, but he wanted to come back here for his last 2 years of college, so he came back here, and he liked it. He's still here.
Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So we skipped ahead a little bit. We didn't talk about you starting a family,
right?
And how that began, where were you when you had your first child, Bill?
We were here.
Here.
No, we were in Portland when he was born.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we were in Portland.
Okay.
And
he was born in November, and we moved here in April or May the next year. So he was just a baby when we came here, and the other ones were all born here.
Okay, wonderful. And so let's talk about your kids a little bit, and all boys.
Right, all boys.
I like being a boy mom. I say it's the easy button, but
I think so too. I've seen too many parents with daughters that I think, I didn't have those problems.
Yeah, I think we
they're active. Boys are active. But
right, you just keep them busy. We have them busy in scouts, in church activities, sports, and
that's all they knew, right?
Yeah,
they knew the church, they knew scouts, they knew.
And we always had to have some help with the transportation because we had 4 going 4 different directions, and so sometimes we had to share rides and things like that.
Mm-hmm. They had their sports too. They played soccer, and basketball, and baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we were busy.
Very busy. Very busy. And so, how far apart were they? Their age-wise?
They're all 2 years apart in school.
In school,
right.
Yeah, but
they're not otherwise.
No, Bill was born in 70. Our son Brett was born in 73. Bradley was born in 74, and Brandon was born in 77.
Okay, so those are some busy years. That's a lot.
But because of the months that they were born in,
that's why
they were all 2 years apart in school.
Yeah. And did you continue to work then while they were younger, or did you? So you took a step back during this time.
I did, and I feel really. I think I was blessed to be able to do that because I know nowadays women aren't able to do that because of the cost of living and so forth. But no, I was able to stay home with my kids.
Wonderful.
And when we moved to Maryland in 82, right?
Yes.
We moved to Maryland, and my youngest was going to go into kindergarten, so I didn't work that year. But then after that, I just found employment in an agency that hired people once, a company would call and say, I need some help. And so then I'd go work at that time. And then And then after that, I started looking for a job teaching again. And so then I started back to teaching again in Maryland.
And good for you, because also you're teaching, raising your kids. I'm sure that was a huge benefit for, they all were quite high achievers, right?
Yeah, most of them were.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So talk about their personalities and the different things, what they've gone on to do now, your 4 kids that you've raised.
Okay. Well, Bill was, he graduated from UNLV. And he started out in the hotel industry where he was working.
Hospitality?
In hospitality, right. Well, he's changed jobs several times, but right now he's working for the cable company.
Right. And then on weekends, he works in security at the stadium, Allegiant Stadium.
Cool.
And he does that because he loves doing that. So it means he's working a lot, but that's his time where he's doing stuff he really enjoys. So.
Nice. Okay. And who came after Bill?
And that's Brett.
Okay, that's Brett.
And we have all B's in our family.
Yeah, I know.
Except
I did
for
know
me. He's a CPA. CFO. Right.
CFO.
So, and he's here. He lives in Henderson. And he has 3 little boys.
Yes, he does. It kills me. It's great.
So we have lots of boys. The Scobie name will go on forever.
Yes, forever and ever.
And then our son Bradley is in Maryland yet, and he's an elementary school vice principal.
Okay.
And he likes being in that position. I think at some point he'd like to be principal, but that may come yet. Don't know that. And his wife is a teacher also. And of course, my 2 that are back there, our youngest, Brandon, is in Pennsylvania. But of course, the 2 of them found girls back there that they married. So,
well, that's
it. They're pretty permanent back
there.
That's
how it goes.
Right?
And Brad has 2 boys.
Right.
And what does he do?
He's the vice principal.
Brad. I just said Brad has 2 boys.
Oh, Brad does. Okay, but the youngest.
The youngest, Brandon. He has 1 girl.
Okay.
And he's a cable guy.
Got you. Okay. Nobody went into the FBI, huh?
2 of them tried,
and
they weren't accepted. One of them, Brett, was in the Secret Service for a couple of years. And he was single during that time. And every time there was something happened on the weekends or whatever, he was always called. He said, I had no life, so he quit. Because they'd call him before they'd call the married guys.
Sure, yeah.
And so he says, enough of that. I don't have any life. So
yeah.
He was a CPA at that time anyway, so he didn't have trouble finding jobs.
Yeah. And how many years were you in the FBI before you retired?
28.
28 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 28 years. I know you we were at a birthday party not that long ago, and y'all know each other still And you are glad you made that choice?
Oh, yes.
You loved it?
Yes.
You loved it?
Yes.
What was the best part about it?
I don't know. There's you feel like you're doing something worthwhile. Mm-hmm. You're trying to get those that commit crimes off the streets,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was sometimes very exciting and sometimes kind of boring, but it was always interesting.
Yeah. What about being married to the FBI guy? How did you feel about that?
I never worried too much, although the first year he was in, when we were in Portland, Oregon, got a phone call. He had been in an altercation with some other agents, and he got hurt.
There were 4 of us and 20 of the others, and we had one heck of a fight for a couple minutes.
All FBI agents?
No, well...
4 of the FBI. Okay, I misunderstood.
4
okay.
FBI and 20
bad guys.
20 Black Panthers.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's...
Okay.
We were trying to arrest one of them, and all of them, of course,
Yeah.
Didn't want that to happen.
Okay,
so.
that's a scary call to get.
It was. But actually, one of the other agents was worse off than he was. But so it was a little hard after that to see him go to work and then wonder what was going to happen. But
worry,
you
yeah.
finally get over that.
Yeah.
You finally get over that.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't worry too much after that. And that's really the worst one that I know about.
That year.
There are a lot of things I probably don't know because I didn't want to know something that I might accidentally tell somebody.
Yeah.
So he didn't come home and tell me a lot about
that's I'd have to
things.
operate under that way too. Exactly.
Yeah, I felt better about that than thinking if he told me something and then I accidentally told someone and it wasn't a good situation. I didn't want to be put in that situation.
Also, sometimes it's best not to know things.
Right.
Even my kids as adults, they try to tell me things. I'm like, too soon.
Right. Right.
Nope.
Right.
Mama doesn't need to know
Yeah,
that.
we hear that once in a while too.
Exactly. Right. So just speaking to you as parents, because, we all want the same thing. We just want to raise good humans. I think as parents, it's the hardest job in the world. It's the best job in the world. It's everything. But so tell me about parenting and what you were like as parents and together, how you navigated all of that.
I don't know. I thought I was pretty strict.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess demanding. I don't know. Sharon probably was the softer part of that.
Yeah, I would say so.
We're in agreement here. All boys would be in agreement here too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What was the hardest part about co-parenting for you?
That's a good question.
Probably thought I was too strict at some points.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to realize they're not all the same. After you raise one, we had Bill for a couple of years before we had any more.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, when you have the next one, then you realize they have very different personalities.
I remember that.
You can't do the same thing with one that you did with another one.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, my second one came around and then I got put in my place because I understood what the terrible toothy, he was spirited. He was spirited. Mm-hmm. But, my oldest one, when, he's a 2-year-old, I'm like, come on, parents, get it together. And then I'm like, oh, I gotcha. Okay. So that's cool. And so it's hard being young parents. What was the hardest part, would you say, as a couple going through those years, that season of your marriage together as raising your kids?
I'm going to backtrack for just a second because I think those 5 years that we had just the two of us was a special time. Mm. And I think that actually helped us because I think we knew each other. We had gone together for 4 years, but we hadn't lived together all that time. And so we had... So we got to really know each other well before we even had our kids. And to me, that was, when it got to the end of that 5 years, we were both wanting children. And then it seemed to take forever to finally get pregnant. But it just, to me, we established ourselves as a couple.
I love that.
And then, that to me, that helped raise the kids because I knew I had his support all the time.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that is really important, and not every couple has that time and jump right into it, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, she did a lot on her own because I'm gone a lot, and sometimes I would be gone a week or more at a time. And when we moved to Maryland. I was sent down to Quantico for 3 months as a counselor for the National Academy, and so I came home maybe twice during that time. So she had a lot on her plate at that time.
It explains a lot. You're a very capable, independent woman.
Yeah. But that was challenging because we had just moved. So you don't know anybody. You don't have any friends that you've established yet. And that's why, again, going back to the church, that's why finding a church right away is the most important thing
Yeah.
when you first move, because that's where you're grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's home,
And so,
right? So
right,
that's home.
right.
Um, did you ever come across a church that wasn't a fit for you, or did you just find yourself at home everywhere you went?
I think we found ourselves at home.
Pretty much. I mean, we left one church to come to this church
Mm-hmm.
because we weren't comfortable with what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we came to Desert Spring.
Win for Desert Spring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But our church in Maryland was interesting too. We both kind of grew up in a country atmosphere in Wisconsin, and where we moved, we lived in Westminster, Maryland. It was a country atmosphere, and it felt like home when you first got there, because of that feeling that you got from people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. So tell me about some of the shared values and goals that have kept you two have been aligned in throughout the years.
Well, probably number one thing, family. And well, because we grew up in the church, I mean, we learned to share our blessings and our problems with God. So that was our base, and I think that, and always believing that in God's promise, that He wants the best for us, and that He's always with us.
Yeah. Would you add anything to that, Sharon?
I was just thinking of something when we when we moved from here. Well, the FBI, when they told you to move, you either moved or you quit. And I knew he wasn't about to quit, so we knew we were going to be moving. And so he ended up working in Baltimore. Well, we lived in Westminster, Maryland, so he had to commute a little bit. But I always remember him saying that he felt God has a purpose for moving us where we moved. So it wasn't just the FBI that moved us. It was God had a reason for us to go too. And I don't know if I believed that right away.
Yeah.
But because it's always hard to leave a lot of friends,
Yeah.
But I think I agree. I think he had a purpose. Maybe we needed to be at that church that time. He needed to be at work where he was working.
And it was a good place for us to raise those boys, because we got involved with scouts there heavily. I mean, we were involved with scouts here too, but I was a scoutmaster there, and I think that I maybe had a good influence on some of the kids that came through there.
That's great.
And we got to see, I mean, we did all the battlefields, all the that and national forests and parks, and did a lot of camping, and learned a lot of things, and the kids learned a lot of things, had a lot of great experiences.
Yeah.
Our main trip where we canoed about 110 miles through rivers and over beaver dams and all that stuff. We had great times, doing that. And I think I probably had some influence on some of the kids that were in my troop.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it's easy to look back and see, oh, that's why God put us here. And that's why God, whether it was to give something or to receive something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We have some really close friends yet in Maryland that whenever we go back to see our boys and their families, we always meet up with them.
That's wonderful. That's great. So after all these years of marriage, valuable lessons that you have learned being married together. 58 years, am I remembering? Or 58.
58,
right.
right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things is that was influencing to me anyway when we were first engaged. The pastor and his wife had us, I think it was over just for coffee. I don't remember. And they gave us 2 cups, and they called them listen, talk, and sip cups. And and explained you need to listen and talk, amongst yourself while you're having your coffee or hot chocolate or whatever you're having, to make your marriage work. And that was their gift to us.
That's really cool. Do you still have those cups?
No, they got broken in the process. They wouldn't live through 4 boys.
That's true, right? You're lucky you came out alive. That's true. That is true.
But I think the the trust and respect we have for each other, I think that's one of the values we had. We also value our time apart from each other because we do have interests apart from doing everything together. And I can't think of how many times I've thought to myself, because I was really involved on the conference level here at Desert Southwest Conference with the women's group. And I was president of that group for 4 years and consequently ended up being, when you're president of the conference group, you end up on a whole mess of other committees that you didn't expect to be on. And so I was gone a lot. In fact, my kids said to me, why don't you guys just move to Phoenix? No, we're happy where we are. So, but I was gone at that time. I was gone a lot. My boys were gone by then. They were married and gone. But I mean, Bill allowed me to do that, and I'm not saying that he said yes, you can do it. I mean, I told him I was interested. He said, well, if you want to do it, do it. And so it was always the trust and respect we had for each other.
I love that, and I do think it's really important to have our own interests and have our own time, and to be able to have the freedom to be able to explore those things. And I think you probably appreciate your time together even more after you've been apart doing your thing.
You need to give each other space.
Yeah. I think that's really, really great. In a moment, not yet, I'm gonna ask you for advice for younger people listening. But first, as they would say, I'd like you to spill the tea. Do you know what that means? Okay, so this would be the term, like, come on, give me the juice. Like, what is it, what is it that we don't know about Bill that would just crack us up or make us smile? What's something maybe that we don't know?
I may have to think about that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, while you're thinking, Bill, what is it about Sharon that might surprise us?
I can tell you something about myself that other people might not realize, that I truly enjoy being a practical joker.
Really?
That is true.
Oh, okay.
And I used to keep things lively at work all the time because I would do things. Well, one of the things I would do for my squad always, Sharon helped me. I would have her bake a cake and decorate it a certain way to, be kind of a practical joke of the person whose birthday it was.
Fun.
So
that's
that's
awesome. That's great.
And one of my supervisors, who had less than half the time in the bureau that I had, and was always trying to tell me how to do my job, I moved his car one time and put a tricycle in his parking spot that had a red light and an antenna on it.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that joke went back to headquarters on that one.
That's awesome.
And so I heard that because one of the persons that was at headquarters that had heard it moved to Mesquite, and she's an ex-agent, so she's come to our ex-agents meeting, and she was telling me that story.
You're going, that's me.
I said, well, you know who did that? And she said, no. I said, that was me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. That's great. I love that.
He had a relationship with one of our friends back east, too.
We used to play jokes on each other.
Right.
That was a lot of fun.
Our closest friends have always been through church. And because we've sung in the choir, a lot of people are choir people. But so the ones we go back to see now, she was the choir director. We go see our pastor and his wife, and then the other ones were in choir. But this one lady, Bill they have a little continuing thing back and forth. Not so much anymore, but
well, it's long distance, so it's
long distance.
It's tougher.
Yeah, it's a little tougher, but it's always been fun.
But I would not have pegged you a practical joker, so that's really fun to know. And I'm gonna lock that away. It's gonna come out at just the right time, just so you know. Any surprises? Did you think of a surprise about Sharon? Anything we might not know? Or did you think about something about yourself, Sharon, that may be something we'd be surprised to know about you?
I'm quiet.
I'm not. I know you're an extrovert like me.
No, she's not an extrovert.
You are always engaging. You're just not the, you are. I watch you. You're always talking to people.
I think, well, for one thing, being a teacher, you have to be to a certain extent, but that's not really my nature.
Would you say you're an introvert extrovert?
Okay, so a little of each, you mean?
So this is me.
Probably.
People think that I'm like a total extrovert, but I have a very, very introverted side. Like if I go to a party and there's no one I know, I will pick up a serving tray and just start helping people because I'm pretty, so I think you have a balance. I think you have a mix of that.
I tend to, until I get to know people, I think I tend to stand back
and not talk.
And
right.
not talk, right. Yeah, his sister said, does she talk?
Yeah, right.
That was the first time I met her.
That's funny.
So
that's funny. I think you two are a beautiful balance, though, with each other. I think it's great how you're both pretty even killed, pretty,
I think most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you share things together and that you have your own interests and just the respect and that you have for each other. Mm-hmm. So you got 60 coming up around the corner. Are there plans for the 60? Anniversary?
Not yet. But one other thing I wanted to mention before you wanted to have us say something to a young couple.
Yes.
Is that you may have some serious conflicts at some point, but I think when you have those times, you need to think of what drew you to this person in the first place? Yeah. What qualities did this person have that you said, I want to be with somebody like that? And think about that before you decide to split or whatever, Because, and if you go through those times and you do that, I think that, that will be of help.
I'm thinking in 58 years, you both had to do that a few times.
Oh, yeah. So, there's always bumps in the road.
Yeah.
You just...
and one other thing...
to support each other.
One other thing that I think you need to remember is what you promised at the altar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A covenant with each other and with God. Mm-hmm. I thank you both for sharing. I think you have a lot more wisdom to share. I have this I have this wish for more mentoring within the church, more multi-generational. We just have so much to learn. I'm blessed to have friends that are of all ages. So I'm sort of like, especially in the church, right? So I'm in the middle of the road kind of for the, there's people older and people younger. And I just think it's my life is so enriched because I learn from people younger and I learn from people older. And so I'm excited for people listening to the podcast and what they'll learn from you. And I'm excited for them to post your picture so that, they can, come up and ask you questions. So, because I know it's more than we can cover here today, but, I thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for everything you do in the church. And I look forward to seeing how you're going to celebrate your 60th anniversary.
Yeah, well, we'll have to think about that for a while. We got time.
You got time.
Yeah. Well, when we had our 50th, we said all we wanted was the whole family together, seeing that we're separated now with, some on the East Coast and us here. And that was the only thing I wanted. I didn't want anything extravagant or anything like that. I just wanted our family together.
And you did get that.
We did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a gift. That's a true gift. Well, I thank you both so much. I for sure want to have your wedding picture so we can send that out to everyone. And we always end our episodes here in prayer. So unless either one of you want to pray, I'll pray us out, unless either one of you wanted to. Okay. Gracious, loving God, I just thank you so much for Sharon and Bill, and just the delight that they are, and just the wonderful example of your love that they are, not just to each other and to their families, but to all of us. I thank you for the blessing of the church that has always grounded them in their lives and in their marriage, and how you've been able to be at the center of all of it. We just pray for many more wonderful and glorious years together, and we just pray that the lessons that they have learned through their obedience to you are lessons that can continue to be passed on to the rest of us. And we give you thanks and praise for all good things that we know indeed come from you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.